Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. My name is Ty with MojoPlays, and you know what? I can't. I simply can't. I cannot act this cheerful when I've done something truly heinous. I mean, my god, it was so stupid. I honestly don't know what came over me to make me do such a thing. I made a bunch of people angry because I liked a game. Can you imagine how terrible that is? Like, how could anyone say they enjoy a game?
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
How? How dare we have any ounce of positivity? What else can I say except I still enjoyed Cyberpunk. Yeah, you heard me right. Even with all the bugs, glitches, and occasional crashes, Cyberpunk 2077 has been an absolute joyride for me. And it has gotten better as the updates rolled in. Well, in terms of stability, that is. Whether I was blazing down the streets of Night City or taking down vicious cyber psychos, the game scratched a lot of itches that plagued me during the last month of 2020. Well, when I wasn't playing Hades, that is. My hacking abilities made combat hilarious and how I could command enemies to off themselves with just a quick glance. Every one of the several dozen side missions gave me various ways to take a breather from the main campaign, and the story was fantastic with its well-written characters, humor, and drama.
Name, Skippy.
Skippy? Seriously?
Increasing volume by 66%. Name.
I'm not deaf!
Understood. Hearing within norm. Possible issue, low IQ.
Speaking of which, Cyberpunk 2077 shows a clear understanding of the commentary creator Mike Pondsmith injects into the tabletop series. Pondsmith has stated before that Cyberpunk was made as a warning of the effects of hyper-commercialism, the loyalty to companies, etc. And I found that echoing in my head throughout my playthrough.
And you abandoned it, and now, out of nowhere, you remembered you left it. Likely story.
Night City is very much a world that indulges in advertising, sex, and drugs, and it gets in your face about it more often than one would like. However, that is the selling point of the world. Compared to our world, Night City is almost a spitting image with obnoxious advertising and heavy usage of sex and drugs to sell products. Not trying to make the game sound like a fortune teller, just showing some appreciation for relaying a message.
Yorinobu-sama has since issued a public statement condemning the perpetrators' deplorable actions and promising swift retribution.
I've already stated much of what I like in the first video of my overall review, which if you haven't, go watch it after this. One of the biggest, most blasphemous things I said was that Cyberpunk has better driving mechanics than Grand Theft Auto. After spending much of my holiday break playing this game, I still stand by that notion. My problem with GTA's driving mechanics, GTA 5 specifically, was how it's more focused on realism. The weight and physics are solid, and make it feel like you're driving the real thing, but control is where GTA 5 slips up the most. Making sudden turns can cause you to lose so much speed that it gets annoying. Cyberpunk prioritizes player convenience, granting quick acceleration for most vehicles. The way the brake mechanics are designed too, make it easier to power slide and make sharp turns without losing much speed. Cyberpunk simply understands how big its world is and wants to make sure you get going as quick as possible. GTA 5 is just too busy trying to replicate real life, and its prioritization on that over convenience is what makes driving annoying. I promise though, I'm not here to praise Cyberpunk for the entire video. I actually walked away with more criticisms than I originally had. Of course, the technical performance still could be improved. I have found a dialogue bug with Judy.
Let's talk about something else.
Go for it. I'm driving right now, so it's perfect timing.
And one part of my city has a permanent car inferno, but version 1.06 has put the game in a more playable state than it was at launch. However, most of the problems I have lie within the user interface and a small portion of the gameplay. Character builds are a criticism I had to discover much later on in the game. Part of the appeal of RPGs like Cyberpunk 2077 is the character building, the restructuring of skill points, attributes, and which perks are active. It adds some replayability to the game and lets your player experiment with different combinations. This is why people go back to Borderlands and Fallout New Vegas. While they experience the same story in general, it's a vastly different way to play it. Cyberpunk puts on that face in the beginning, but as I was approaching the level cap, I realized this wasn't as deep as I had hoped. What originally started as an intelligent netrunner with some engineering skills, now turned into a netrunner with engineering skills, gorilla fists, and the exaggerated swagger of a street punk. The one thing I wasn't really proficient in was reflexes, and even then, I wasn't having a hard time peppering enemies with a shotgun I nabbed 15 levels ago. You're most likely going to end up strong in just about everything with the exception of one of your attributes. In other words, spending attribute points boils down to which stat do you care about the least. Sure, I kept playing as the jackass hacker I am, and coding people to make them vomit their guts out, but it concerns me how samey my second playthrough may become. As much as I commend the constant progression between overall level, attributes, and separate levels for skills, I fear this generosity might make a second playthrough more tedious. While we're on the topic of monotony, NCPD scanner missions can be pretty repetitive, and it often leaves a sense of unfulfillment. See, it isn't enough to just off everyone with a quick hack and a few bullets. Once everyone is down, you typically have to go and pick up one of the game's countless shards, or you get a random item like a baseball bat or a random pair of shades to complete the mission. It quickly feels more like busy work to do while you wait for the next mission, and it's not even that fun. I managed to get a few hyuks out of it, but again, I have the power to blink and set people on fire. Of course I'm going to be cackling like a maniac. Still, I would rather have had a few more solid side missions than a few hundred of these 1-minute missions. Seriously, there's way too many of these. My biggest issue with Cyberpunk was mainly the user interface, and I'm going to be breaking this down in a few smaller segments. The most glaring flaw was the inventory management. I don't mind the inventory itself, Cyberpunk is quite generous when it comes to storage. My problem lies in how tedious it is to dismantle and sell the crap I don't want or care for. Selling and dismantling items can only be done one at a time. So when you sell or dismantle, the screen freezes for a second before it refreshes the menus. I don't understand why there's no function to sell in groups. I could forgive the screen freezing, but when I have to do this for every single item, it feels like I'm spending more time in my inventory than I should be, and it isn't by my own will. You can sell items in groups as in that item specifically, but when it comes to selling a shirt, a few guns, and maybe some junk items, you're gonna have to do each item one at a time. Another feature I consider a tad user-unfriendly is the autosave system. Mind you, I'm all up for autosaving, but that's not what I'm saying. The less time I spend on menus and more time I can spend playing, the better. Unfortunately, autosave became my enemy on a few occasions. Some deaths would result in me respawning in the middle of a previously completed mission. Thankfully, it wasn't like 2 or 3 missions ago. It would literally be the previous mission. Still, like anyone who plays video games, a few minutes of progress lost can be enough to kill your momentum and your mood. I'm not frustrated by it all that much, but I couldn't help wondering why autosave didn't just trigger upon completion of a mission. Yeah, I could manual save just about any time I wanted, but at least make autosave go off whenever I reach a milestone or something. And couldn't there have been a setting that adjusts how often autosave occurs? One other crucial feature that befuddled me was the armor rating system. This is basically the concept of power levels in a different form, and if you saw my review and review recap on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you'll know why I despise power levels. To me, they are a lazy way to manage difficulty, and they force the player to simply equip whatever gear has a higher rating, rather than allow the player to customize as they see fit and determine what benefits their playstyle more. Cyberpunk 2077 falls into this trap with its armor rating system. Let me put it this way. Do you want your character to look cool like they belong in the world of Cyberpunk? Or would you rather wear a straw hat, bra, and jeans just because they had the higher armor rating? We're basically back to that custom character meme where Big Bird is in an office meeting. It really would have made more sense to keep clothing entirely cosmetic and strictly tie cyberware to armor rating instead. Probably would have encouraged me to visit Ripper Docks way more often than I did. The other bit I'm confused about was the inclusion of a wanted system. If somebody catches you committing a crime, the cops will spawn behind you and immediately begin to attack. However, all you need to do is hop in a vehicle and drive off, and the law will forget you ever existed. There's no AI to chase you, no attempt to roadblock you, no nothing. Even at a wanted level of 4 badges, I was able to flee the scene without a hitch. I understand why CD Projekt would want this mechanic in a crime-riddled world like Night City, but if there's no excitement, no punishment, no tension, then what was the point of including this? The only reason I could come to was that there's so much crime in Night City that the cops have to pick and choose their battles. But even under that umbrella, this feature is severely underdeveloped. If I could describe Cyberpunk 2077, I'd say it's a fantastic 70-hour game of whys. There's a lot of design choices that don't make much sense, and it really could have benefited from a somewhat more simplistic system. It also could have benefited from more development time rather than rushing it out the door, but it seems like CD Projekt's board had to learn that the hard way. I digress though. Even with these problems, I still had a ton of fun with the world, the vehicles, the combat, the characters, everything. I can't think of a single mission that I despised, or even couldn't care much for. Is it enough to warrant me to start a second playthrough? Not too sure when I still have Persona 5 Royal to finish, and future reviews and retro reviews. Is it enough for me to try and pop the Platinum Trophy on PS4? Absolutely! As far as naming it MojoPlays Game of 2020 goes, I fully stand behind our decision. I just hope that CD Projekt takes that launch as a warning and learns to not rush their next project.
I'm not at all excited about this plan. Realize that, right?
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.